let me tell you a story that's going to completely flip what you think about happiness on its head. It's about a man who had literally everything: power, unimaginable wealth, the highest status, and yet he only found true, deep joy after he gave it all away. This is the incredible story of King Badya. Okay, picture this. You're walking through a quiet, peaceful forest, and you hear someone, a monk, just whispering to himself, "Sukanho, sukanho." It means, "Oh, such happiness, oh, such happiness." It's this beautiful, calm sound, but also kind of strange, right? So you gotta wonder, who was this man? And what was he so happy about? Was he just daydreaming about some luxurious past? Or had he stumbled upon a secret to happiness that most of us completely miss? Well, let's find out. To find the answer, we have to go back, not to a forest, but to a palace, inside the opulent walls of a kingdom. Our story starts with a man who was living a life that, from the outside, looked like an absolute dream. Meet Badya. He was a king of the Sakyans. That's the same noble clan the Buddha himself came from. We're talking absolute power, riches you can't even count, a status that put him at the very, very top of society. I mean, on the outside, his life looked perfect. There's actually this great little story that shows you just how out of touch these princes were. One day, they're all talking about where rice comes from. Prince Kimbila thinks it comes from the royal granary. King Badya guesses, well, the cooking pot. But his best friend, Unaruda, had the best answer of all: rice just appears on the golden plate. That was their reality. But, what you see on the outside isn't always the whole story. Behind that magnificent life, the reality for Badya was totally different. Being king wasn't about joy, it was about this constant, grinding anxiety. Every luxury, every bit of power came with this deep, nagging fear that he could lose it all. His life wasn't a palace, it was a fortress, and he was the prisoner. And then, right into the middle of this perfect-looking but terrifying life, came a request from his closest friend. And this request, it would change everything. That friend was Prince Unaruda. See, he'd been inspired by the teachings of their cousin, the Buddha, and he wanted to renounce the world. But he didn't want to go alone. So he goes to Padya with this idea that must have sounded completely nuts. Hey, let's leave the throne, the power, all this money, and become homeless monks. Now, Anuruddha's mom was pretty smart. She thought she had the perfect way to stop him. She said, "Okay, fine, you can go, but only if King Badya goes with you." She was so sure that a king, especially one like Badya, would never, ever agree to give up his throne. So the whole decision suddenly landed right in the king's lap. So Badya, who really did not want to do this, he tries to stall. First, he asks for 7 years. 7 years. But Anuruddha just wouldn't let it go. He kept pushing, negotiating Badya down from years to months to weeks, until finally they landed on just 7 days. In 7 days, Badya would give up his entire kingdom. And just like that, 7 days later, the king kept his word. What happened next wasn't just a trip across a border. It was a journey that would completely dismantle who they thought they were. And he wasn't alone. It was a whole crew of 6 royal cousins: Badya, Anuruddha, Ananda, Babu, Kimbala, and even the infamous Devadatta. And they brought along one other person, someone you wouldn't expect, who would play a huge role in their story: Upali, their royal barber. As soon as they were out of their own territory, they took off all their priceless jewels and royal robes, and then they did something that was just, wow, so radical. They decided to crush their royal pride once and for all. They asked Upali, their servant, to be ordained by the Buddha before them. Think about that. It meant that these powerful princes would have to bow down to and respect the man who used to cut their hair for the rest of their lives. What a lesson in humility. Okay, so they've ditched the crowns, the jewels, the ego. Now the real work for Badya could finally begin. The search for the happiness that his real life can never give him. Unlike his life as a king, which was just full of distractions, Badya turned all of his focus inward. He just threw himself into it completely. Meditation, discipline, all the practices for purifying the mind. He was all in. So what was the goal here? It was to become what's known as an arhat. That's a person who is fully awakened. someone who has completely gotten rid of all greed, all hatred, all delusion, and has reached the state of unshakable peace, of true, lasting happiness called nirvana. Now, for most people, this kind of journey can take lifetimes. But Bhatia, and this is just incredible, the guy who didn't even want to be a monk in the first place, he achieved this highest goal within his very first 3-month meditation retreat. His resolve was just off the charts. And that brings us full circle, right back to the beginning of our story. Back to that monk in the forest whispering those beautiful, mysterious words to himself. So, after he became enlightened, it didn't matter where he was, deep in the woods, under a tree, in an empty hut. Other monks would just hear him exclaiming, "Oh, such happiness! Oh, such happiness!" So, what was going on? What was he so incredibly happy about? While the other monks, they heard this, and they just didn't get it. They started to get a little worried. They actually went to the Buddha and said, "Hey, we think Bhatia might be regretting his decision. Maybe he's not happy now. Maybe he's just thinking about how great it was to be a king." So the Buddha calls Bhatia over and just asks him straight up. And his answer, well, it explains everything. He said, "When I was a king, I had armed guards protecting me inside the palace, outside the palace, all through the city. But I was always full of fear and dread. But now," he said, "alone in the forest with absolutely nothing, I have no fear, no anxiety, I am free." That was the happiness he was talking about. So why are we talking about this ancient story today? What does it have to do with us, right here, right now? Because Bhatia's lesson is absolutely timeless. It really makes you stop and ask yourself, doesn't it? What's the golden cage in my life? What are the things, the possessions, the job titles, the relationships that I cling to, thinking they make me happy or safe, but actually just bring me worry and fear? Bhatia's story shows us that real freedom, real happiness isn't about getting more. It's about realizing how much we can live without. Hey, if this story made you think or gave you a little something to chew on, do us a favor and hit that like button, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe to support us. Thanks for joining me.